Where was Lover's Lane in Richardson, Texas? Did they have one?
Lover's Lane. Because there is a Lover's Lane in Dallas. It's actually the name of the street.
The name of the street?
Yes.
But that's not what I'm referring to.
You're asking, where was that spaghetti strip?
Yeah, well, more like the Dick Dog, but...
Actually, there were several locations that we had, but because it's the kind of area that it was, we really didn't have those issues. Most of what happened is there were a couple of cheap hotels, and people would rent those rooms down there for very little money and go to the hotel instead of go out in the public, because particularly with as many people, we'd have 15 to 20 cars on the road at any given time. It was really pretty hard. It was a good preventive aspect to that sort of activity. And frankly, I guess it was a whole lot more fun to go to the hotels than it was to go into whatever weeded areas or parked areas there were. Everybody who gets stopped gets a traffic ticket because there may be any number of reasons. Somebody, oh my gosh, and you could see people realize I really didn't realize I was going 30 miles an hour and it's only a 20-mile zone. And you explain to them that we're trying to prevent accidents, which is why you issue citations. You don't issue citations to keep the policeman busy. You issue citations because you're trying to prevent accidents. You're trying to protect the crosswalks where people go from one sidewalk to the other. You try to prevent expensive insurance bills and injuries. And that's what traffic enforcement is about. The police officer, in his discretion, his or her discretion, feels that this person has learned a lesson from the discussion. He'll issue a warning. He has that discretion, and to me, that's the best part of the law, is that we can use the law to our advantage, to the sense that we can help people and we can train them, because there are three elements involved in traffic enforcement or any other approach to policing. One is education. We teach people, vis-a-vis what we're doing here, my website, our website, that we talk to people about what they can expect. That's education. And then we have engineering. And engineering is, if you've got a turn that's difficult because there are cars parked on the corner, you remove those parking spots, and now you've got a clear view. That helps. And the third is enforcement. So if you fail in the first two, and people don't stop at the intersection, or they violate the crosswalk, then you can enforce them. So those three elements together contribute to how we control almost all of our issues. The same thing could be true of the beach, for example. If we want to talk about that for a moment.
Please, go ahead.
The beach activity, as you know, the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts said that consenting adults, and I don't care whether we're talking about gays or we're talking about heterosexuals, whatever we're talking about, if they are reasonably hidden and they have an expectation of privacy because of where they are, that's it, no problem. The police are not going to interfere with that. When they build up into large crowds, however, and cut fences, tear up gardens, break lights, go on people's boats and light matches, disturb the peace, that's when we have to step in and enforce the law. Laws that we've always had, not sex laws, but laws on behavior, personal property behavior, absolutely. Trespassing and vandalism and things of that type. Those are the laws we enforce. And the end result, particularly in a community like ours, is that we don't want people, unless you're pushed to the limit, to have a sex crime violation, because they'll take that with them and that's a lifetime. You're spending $200 a night for a room, go to your room. That's the message we want to get across, and you won't see the police, and they won't care, and you won't care. So that I guess the message is that keep it private where it belongs, and I'm not going to argue with you, and I'm not going to go after you, for your sexual behavior or orientation, whatever. If you're reasonably hidden, people can't come across you, walk across you, see you, but there's some who are pretty brazen. Obviously we've got to deal with that, and most of that's going to be trespassing, such as in somebody's garden, and those are the things we've got to watch out for.
Well, how could we prevent trespassing? Would there not, based on the Massachusetts Supreme Court's decision, as you say, and what you just said about the trespassing thing, isn't there a way that we could create a zone of space, a park, that is designated as the official Lover's Lane of Provincetown?
Well, I think they tried that in one sense, by going with the spaghetti strip, and of course you heard the jokes with that one. I think the turtle joke was the funniest one of all. Because you know the rest of that story, right?
That would be a new issue, by the way.
Oh, well,
yeah.
About the turtles liking live bait.
Oh, yeah.
A dear friend of ours said that's a misunderstanding about Provincetown, that the turtles want a meal, not a snack.
I forgot about it.
That's right. At any rate, that's, I think in other locales, probably farm, that would be called a bathhouse. So if somebody wants to open up a bathhouse, and it's governed by all of the health rules and codes and things like that, you know, I need to talk to their selectmen about that. That's
good suggestion.
But if it's public, you know, different story.
Gotcha.
Or if you've got licensed premises, different story. You know, if you go to a bar that has a license and people are behaving that way, and then that's public domain, and you know, that's in violation of the ordinances and laws.
So no back rooms and bars.
No back rooms and bars. That's absolutely right.
Gotcha.
It can't be an expectation of privacy in a place like that.
One of the questions that struck me last night as really a relevant one was, and I apologize, there were two questions that converged. One was the fact that a person of less seniority would have the night shift because that would be the least desirable, and last on gets the worst shift.
As a police officer.
As a police officer. Totally understand that. Right. Every job does the same thing. That one, combined with the fact that the bars let out and people are going home in a variety of different states during the midnight to 7 a.m. shift. So my mind says, oh, you've got the least experienced police officers. Well, you've got the most potentially interesting crowd. How do you deal with that?
Well, actually what happens is people will, you know, the summer officers that we hire will be under the control of senior officers. The other thing is that you also have senior supervisors, and people who have been through this program before, so they're not totally novices, you know, in the sense of handling that kind of, excuse me, that kind of traffic. And that's one of the dilemmas that you face in assignments. But we are going to have enough people working with enough controls, enough training, and enough, because we have more than adequate training built in. They are all certified officers, so that we will cover it. The kind of training that I was talking about last night is not the technical training, not the handling of crowds, you know, knowing what the laws are and things like that. What I'm talking about is that when you graduate from the academy, you know, after all the hours that you spend there, in excess of 600, all of that time goes towards learning how to be a police officer from a technical standpoint. But it doesn't tell you how to be an officer in your own town, because it's the same training whether you come from Quincy or Mashpee or Provincetown, wherever. So what I want to do is when you come back from the academy, excuse me, when I come back from the academy, that you will then be Provincetownized, and this is what we want from a police officer. And one of the things that isn't taught particularly, that I love in the academy, is courtesy, and how you handle these various situations that we come across. They said that the police department is a microcosm of society, and representative of society. So we all have the same feelings of pain and anguish and pleasures and things that the ordinary public has. The difference is we have a tremendous amount of power. You know, we have the right of life or death. You know, that's what it boils down to. Yeah, and we can also remove your freedoms. You know, we can take you into custody. And we can do some neat things with that also. Because if we catch somebody drunk, we can bring them into protective custody, put them in jail until they sober up and let them go. And
no record, no nothing.
No, and we do that all the time. We do it all the time. The only record is that there was some contact with somebody.
So clearly, what you're conveying to me is that the police department has laws that it must enforce, but it clearly understands its position in the community relations, public relations position.
Well, more or less social work. We do an awful lot of social work.
That's the word. Thank you. There you go. And your social work
almost have to be, licensed SW.
Yeah, no,
yeah, you almost have to have that kind of capability. You bet.
And your position is to do the least amount of intervention necessary to rectify the situation. If the situation keeps escalating, more intervention is required.
That's correct.
Your job is to try to get it to not escalate. Got it.
That's correct.